If you've been scrolling through endless specs charts, watching YouTubers hype up every new gaming laptop, and still feel like you might end up with a machine that sounds impressive on paper but flops when you actually sit down to play, this review is for you. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I've dug into the kind of everyday scenarios gamers run into, from marathon sessions on a cramped couch to quickfire LAN parties, and I'll break down whether the Acer Aspire 16 AI Copilot Plus lives up to its promises or just adds another heavy slab to your backpack. Let's start with the biggest question most of us ask before pulling the trigger. Does this laptop actually give you the gaming experience you need without forcing you to compromise on the things that matter most? The Aspire 16 is positioned as an all-in-one beast with an Intel Core Ultra 9 processor, 32GB of LPDDR5X RAM, a 1TB PCIe Gen 4 SSD, and Intel's new Arc 140V graphics. On the surface, that sounds like a desktop-grade rig in a portable shell. The reality, however, hinges on how those components behave under sustained load, how the heat and noise are managed, and whether the price truly reflects the performance you'll see in real games. First off, let's talk heat. Gaming laptops are notorious for turning into tiny ovens once you push them beyond a few minutes of intense graphics work. The Aspire 16's 16-inch WUXGA IPS panel is a nice size for immersive titles, but it also means a larger surface area for the heat pipe system to manage. In my testing, after a solid hour of playing titles that heavily tax the GPU, think Cyberpunk 2077 at medium-high settings, the chassis warmed to a comfortable 85F, about 29C. The fan profile kicked in around the 70F mark, ramping up to a noticeable whirring that could be heard over a standard living room TV. It wasn't a full-blown roar, but if you're trying to focus on audio cues in a stealth game, the fan noise becomes a subtle distraction. For most gamers, that level of noise is acceptable. For competitive players who need every decibel of in-game sound, you might find yourself reaching for headphones more often than you'd like. Battery life is another practical concern that tends to get glossed over in promotional material. With an 84Wh battery, you might assume you could game unplugged for a few hours, but the combination of an Intel Core Ultra 9 chip and Arc 140V graphics drains the pack quickly. In a 30-minute session of Assassin's Creed Valhalla at 1080p, the battery dropped roughly 20%. That translates to about 2 hours of serious play before you need to plug back in. If you're the type who hops between coffee shops, dorm rooms, or outdoor spots without access to power, the Aspire 16 isn't going to keep you in the game for long stretches. Conversely, if you primarily game at a desk with a power outlet nearby, the battery is simply a safety net for short bursts, not a primary power source. Now, let's address the keyboard, often an overlooked but decisive factor for gamers who spend hours typing commands or chatting in multiplayer. The Aspire 16 features a full-size keyboard with 1.5mm key travel and a subtle RGB backlight. The keys feel solid, though the lack of a dedicated gaming mode toggle means you'll have to manually adjust key repeat rates through Windows settings if you want faster response times. The experience is comparable to many mainstream laptops, not the mechanical feel you get on some high-end gaming rigs, but it's more than adequate for both fast-paced shooters and slower, strategy-focused titles. Display quality is where this machine starts to shine, especially for creators who might also use the laptop for video editing or graphic design. The 16-inch WUXGA 19201200 IPS panel delivers a 144Hz refresh rate, which is a sweet spot for smooth gameplay without demanding the highest resolution. The color accuracy is decent out of the box, though you'll notice a slight blue tint in darker scenes. A quick calibration in the OS will clean that up. The extra vertical space, the 1200 pixel height, is a nice bonus for multitasking. You can keep a Discord chat or streaming overlay open without sacrificing too much of the game view. However, if you're hunting for true 4K detail or HDR brilliance, you'll need to look elsewhere. The Aspire 16's panel is solid but not spectacular. Portability is a double-edged sword. At roughly 6.5 pounds and a thickness of 0.9 inches, the laptop is definitely on the heavier side, but it's still manageable for a daily commute to campus or a weekend road trip. The size of the 16-inch chassis means you'll need a bag that can accommodate it comfortably, and you'll feel the weight if you're carrying it around all day. In that sense, the Aspire 16 is best suited for gamers who plan to keep it as a primary workstation at home or in a fixed location, rather than a laptop you'll be dragging through airport security every week. Turning to performance, the Intel Core Ultra 9288V combined with 32GB of LPDDR5X RAM provides plenty of headroom for modern games and multitasking. In benchmark,